This is Ian Rappaport from NFL Network. You're killing me, Smalls.
This is Bucky Brooks of the NFL Network. You're killing me, Smalls.
Hey, this is Chris Sack, president of the 76ers. I just want to say, you're killing me, Smalls.
Hey, this is former Sixer and Tar Heel George Lynch. Smalls, you're killing me.
Hi, this is Kenny Albert. You're killing me, Smalls.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the first Killin Me Smallz podcast in over a year. Where have you been, Smalls? Well, I'll tell you, been a lot going on in my life. First of all, got to talk about my producer, my buddy who's going to be joining the show. His name is Chris Deibler. Everybody knows him as Mr. Crockpot. Mr. C, how you doing, buddy?
Whoa, what's going on, Mike? It's been a minute. It's been
too long. It's been too long. That's on me. Life gets in the way, but all good. We have a new member to announce too. This is Gigi in the background. Can you hear or see her back there? She's my new rescue pup. She's going to be hanging with us. What is this show all about? You saw those great guests in the intro. Well, we get great guests because this is a journalism show. We ask good questions. We get good answers. We have good interviews. So what do we talk about? We talk about stuff that interests me. So I love the NFL, and you can see Dan Marino back there. I'm a Dolphin fan, but I love the Eagles too. So we're going to talk a lot of NFL. We're going to talk a lot of Philadelphia 76ers because I'm a bit obsessed with this crazy team. And I met Dr. J. You ready for this story, Chris?
I'm ready.
I met Dr. J right after he got traded. He was playing in an exhibition game right after he became the $6 million man and went to the Sixers at Cherry Hill East High School against the defunct Baltimore Claws. And I was at his first ever game in a Sixer uniform. How about that? Wow. That's how long I go back with this crazy team. I love college football. I got one daughter at Notre Dame. I've got two kids that went to Alabama. I'm obsessed with college football. My background, who am I and what am I all about? So I started as a television sports anchor in North Carolina. I used to do Mac Brown's television show at the University of North Carolina during his first stint. You know, he came back a few years ago. I did Dean Smith's television show for 5 years. I produced the show. I traveled with the teams. I had an office in the Dean Dome and had a great background doing all that stuff. Now I'm old, married, have 4 kids, and getting into podcasting. But you want to subscribe to the Killin Me Smallz podcast because you're going to get great guests and content. And speaking of great guests, the guy who is always on but never on time, my guy Austin Krell, insider for the Philadelphia 76ers. He works at 97.3. AK, it's been a minute. How you doing, buddy?
How you doing, guys? Good to see you all.
Welcome to the initial Killin Me Smallz podcast of the new millennium here. Actually, it's only been a year. It's only been a year. So, Krell, we've got a tight time frame. Welcome aboard. Congrats on your new gig with 97.3. Everybody follow him. Everybody check out his writing. It's awesome. He's great. All right, let's talk about this. So the last podcast I did, the Sixers finally acquired James Harden for Ben Simmons after that whole mess. Chris can't even fathom it. He had to get up and walk away and get a breath over there. That happened. So here we are. What has happened since? James Harden came in, was a good soldier. He averaged 20 and 11. He led the league in assists. He took the Sixers to the second round 2 years in a row. Absolutely disappeared when it mattered most in the playoffs, although he did have 2 very, very big games early in the playoffs this year against the Celtics. He opts into a $35 million contract on the condition that he would get traded. Now he's calling Daryl Morey a liar. Daryl Morey won't trade him. Why did he opt in?
Austin, you want to take it?
You asking me? Okay.
I'm asking you. Why would he opt in and then call everybody, go scorched earth on the Sixers? Why didn't he just say, you know what? I don't want to be here. I'll be a free agent.
Well, because I think he knew that his market was going to embarrass him. Like, I think he did his due diligence. He knew what his market was going to be, and it just was like, I'm going to get more money if I just stay here, but I don't want to be here because they evidently, did something to annoy him contractually, and now they're in this spot. I can tell you that the last, like week, 2 weeks since his chore of rampage in China, some of the sentiment that I was able to get from talking to people, they were like, the Sixers were like, well, why did he opt in if he was going to do it? Like, what was the point? Like, if you don't want to be here that bad, then fine. Just why'd you opt in? So, I think this, and I'm not one for simplification. I think everything is more complex in this league than we really give it credit for. But I think this situation can be kind of simplified quite a bit. And I think what it comes down to is James, over and over and over again the last couple of years, has made a bad business decision, I should say, after a bad business decision with the not taking the Rockets extension, then not taking the Nets extension, then saying, okay, I'm going to opt out and resign for less, and then these guys are all going to come here, and then I'm going to all year long hint at some feeling of like discontent over the fact that I did sacrifice. Which, if you're
can we stop right there? I think that's a good place to jump in, if you don't mind. So Christmas Day, it's reported that James Harden is in play for Houston. Now, if he had the gentleman's agreement with Morey, which, I know the investigation saying clearly somebody said something. He says, he took less money last year, comes back. I guess he got the feeling around that point that the Sixers weren't going to max him, and he felt like he could get the money from Houston, I'm guessing. Would you guess that that's why that came out?
No.
Okay.
I think you can have like a bunch of conflicting theories on this, and none of them will ever be proven true. I do think there is some desire to go back to Houston, but I think he felt like, if this is unsourced, so if the Sixers are watching this, unsourced, yes, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you are dropping that on Christmas Day, their intention behind that is to create, from the player side, to create some sort of leverage. Why do you think you need leverage? Because evidently you think that something is going to happen to you that's going to put you in a spot that you need some sort of advantage against your team in negotiations. So I don't know if he felt like, there was a wink, whatever, unwritten agreement that he felt like he had agreed, that he felt like was agreed to at the time when he signed his contract. And then as the season began and he felt like he was insecure about that agreement, so he decided to leak some leverage. I can tell you this from people that I've spoken to, genuinely the leak, they say he was surprised to hear that story had come out on Christmas. That was genuinely, he genuinely was not expecting that. So I don't know where the leak came from. I don't, from what I've heard, it was not from him. It was not his mandate. The leak did not come from him. And maybe it came from somebody in his camp, but he himself was surprised to hear that had come out.
Okay, so he plays the rest of the year, has, a very good year statistically. Embiid gets the MVP. He seems to like being his setup man. Then it comes out later that he wants his own team and wants to be able to do his own thing. Then, he goes to the Michael Rubin's white party. Seems like everything is, he and his teammates are in a good place. Signs the extension. I'm sorry. Opts in, rather, doesn't sign an extension, opts in with the agreement to be traded. He must know, like you said earlier, he must know his value is down. He wasn't going to get a big contract. Okay, so why not go back to the Sixers? He seems to like Embiid. He seems to like Tucker and Maxey and everybody else. He didn't like Doc Rivers. Doc's gone. Why? What?
At this
what
point,
do you
at this point,
Do you think
at
it's
this
just
point,
pride?
I think Austin already hit it. I think Austin hit the nail on the head. I think his fragile ego is just too much. He's embarrassed. He knows. I think it's all about the dotted line for this guy. He's always been soft. I mean, he's fit in really well with that zero accountability, never looking at himself in the mirror type of organization like the Philadelphia 76ers have been with Doc and you name it. It goes on and on. Ben Simmons. It's insane. And I thought Austin nailed it when, James Harden has misplayed like every single turn. Like he tanked his trade value to the point where nobody wants him. He wanted to go to Houston. The Houston Rockets went with Fred VanVleet over him. Now he's tanked it even more because, if you go out and get this guy, GMs now also have to consider that he might put them on blast if they don't cater to his every whim. The NBA is a soft league, man. They cater to these guys, and they have created this this never-ending circle of just babied, spoiled princesses that think they can get whatever they want. And I think Harden opted in thinking he'll just eventually get whatever he wants anyway.
Part of me thinks that he opted in because he knew that if he requested a trade, he knew that the type of general manager he was working with would fight like hell to extract every bit of value he could out of the trade, and that would give Harden leverage in his next trade or in his next contract request. But
to go back, like you're playing with the NBA MVP. You put up.
I'm not saying it's a good basketball decision.
No,
I'm not.
But what I'm saying is, like, if you want to make a good basketball decision, come back, bust your ass off on the court, and get traded at the deadline, and then you get your bird rights.
That would be.
That makes sense, right?
If I were his agent,
I think it's a futile attempt at sanity to try to put ourselves in James Harden's brain to figure out what makes sense. Thinking about the Sixers' perspective, there had to be a point last year, I'm sure in the middle of Game 6 or at the end of Game 6 or sometime in Game 7, where Josh Harris was like, "Don't even come to me and discuss." A long-term extension for this guy. It's not going to happen.
I don't know about that. I've heard a lot of different information about that. I think I will say this. I think his sentiments towards Daryl Morey specifically match what happened in their decision-making on whether or not to give him a deal, if that makes sense.
I want you to expound upon that. I want you to go a little deeper there.
From what
I know you're trying to hint so you don't get in trouble, but I want to get you in trouble. What exactly are you trying to say? Come on, man. This is Killin Me Smallz, man. This is where it happens. Let's go. Give it to me.
I would just say that I don't think it was necessarily a Josh Harris decision to not pay James.
It's Daryl Morey's reputation. If Daryl Morey gives this guy, $200 million, everyone's laughing at him.
I don't think that was ever part of the cards. One of the first conversations I had after they lost in that series was that James is our guy. He's part of our core. We want him. We just don't think that he's going to be getting the max on the market. So we hope to keep him, on a more team friendly deal. Now the terms that I've heard have vacillated over time. I think roughly their idea would have been similar terms to what they agreed on his 1+1 deal. And I think he was like, no, I think if they offered him a Kyrie Irving level deal,
that's the number I would. We wouldn't even 3 years, 80 or something like that.
I think it was like 3 years, 126. So it was like
that's a big difference. But
yeah.
But if you do that, I mean, it's still a lot of money committed to him. He's got to be able to say, okay, I'm the setup guy for Embiid, and I'm going to have to move over and let Maxey develop as the number 2. His ego wouldn't do that, most likely. it's still a lot of money to commit to him. But the question back is, okay, so if let's think about this for a second. Harden had the opportunity to not opt in at all. The Sixers would get nothing, right? Why not take Norm Powell and 2 draft picks?
Easy. Well, it's all about 2024. That's why there's zero incentive on jumping into any kind of trade with James Harden unless it involves heavy draft capital, because the plan is clear. They want to clear the books, and Daryl Morey wants to do his thing next offseason. Now, that's all up for debate.
There's
but
nobody good that's going to be a free agent next year. You're doing this for Pascal Siakam?
OG Anunoby? That,
I mean,
does that group win the
tank
championship?
here?
I don't
Is that
think so
what
either.
you're here?
I'm not saying that wins a championship.
I think this is the thinking. The new collective bargaining agreement with that second layer of apron on the salary sheets, that's going to have a lot of teams selling off assets because they feel like we can't keep this guy. We got to get under a certain point. And I think they're banking on being in a prime position to acquire those guys on clearance. Guys that teams are like
a Donovan Mitchell, somebody that may not want
that's
to
actually
re-sign.
a name that I've been thinking about more because there's a lot of
I've thought about that
speculation
too.
that he won't sign his extension with Cleveland, and if they are like, well, we got to pay Evan Mobley, we got to figure out what we're going to do with Garland and whatnot. If they are getting rid of guys, they might think, well, let's just flip Donovan Mitchell for a bunch of different guys in a package and try to get something back for him. And that would be the Sixers' chance to step in and be like, we have 60 million or we have whatever million cap space. Let's go get Donovan Mitchell. I think there are other potential guys out there. I forget who I had written down. I think people look at Kawhi and it's like naturally like that's the guy you would like. He's the prototype. Kawhi hasn't played like 40 games in a season, and I don't know how long.
No, he doesn't want to leave LA either.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to pay. I don't know if they're going to pay him, and if they're not willing to acquiesce to him and Paul George, then that's a big deal.
So we're talking in circles here. We're trying to figure out what's going on in James Harden's mind. We're trying to figure out Daryl Morey's plan, and we're trying to figure out how it's executed in the next year, then the next 2 years. That's kind of hard to do in a lot of different ways. I have been asked many times how this thing's going to end, and I really believe in my heart Daryl Morey does have a plan, and I think he's getting close to executing it. And I don't have any idea what that could be. Austin, if I held a gun to your head, which I would never do, you're a pretty good guy. You're a very good guy, as a matter of fact. I do enjoy you. If I held a gun to your head and said, Austin, give me 2 scenarios that you think are going to play out, and you have to bet on this, well, give them to me. Like what you really think, because I personally think that this 2024 thing of cap space and all that is just posturing. I don't believe that he really believes that. I think he's throwing that out there to send a message to Harden and his camp, to Tobias Harris's dad and everybody else that we're not in a rush to do the Ben Simmons, it's my timeline, not yours. I think it's a flex. So you tell me, what do you think? And then Chris, let's hear your thought.
What is the most unpredictable thing that happens in sports every year that is guaranteed to happen? You just don't know what it's going to be or when it's going to happen.
Well, you hope it's not going to happen with your MVP, but I know exactly where you're going. It's who's going to ask out.
No, what happens every year to every sport?
An injury?
Correct.
Where are you going with this?
Correct. There's an injury every year. There's going to be a team out there that ultimately has a guy who's pivotal to their team who is going to get injured. And when that happens, hey, at the deadline, we have, there's James Harden sitting right there. He's on the last year of a deal. He's an offensive creator, a generator. He will get us organized in the half court. We don't have to commit to him long term. It's going to take assets to get off of him, but this is what it's going to take. I think you're banking on someone to get desperate, someone who thinks they have a chance, someone who who has a budding star who they don't want to, discourage with saying, okay, we're gonna sell off at the deadline when we have a chance to get into the playoffs. Well, James Harden's right there.
So you feel like Morey's buying time?
Yeah,
he just wants to hang and see what happens.
I think it's about buying time. There's going to, finding someone who is, desperate, and then preying on that desperation.
Okay. Chris, your thoughts?
I'm with Austin. I think the plan is not even that complicated. I think the plan is to simply build around Tyrese Maxey and hope that he takes that next step under Nick Nurse and becomes part of the new big three in Philadelphia. I think that is the plan. And I don't even think Morey has a plan beyond that. I think we're in a wait and see period with that Nick Nurse, Tyrese Maxey relationship.
So you think that they're unequivocally and indisputably high on Tyrese Maxey?
Oh, 100%. I think the upside with him is real. With Nick Nurse, I don't think he's a pure point guard. I don't think he will ever be a pure point guard. But I think in a Nurse system, there are definitely things that Maxey can take the next step. And I think as long as Joel Embiid is okay with it, and from all reports, at least Ramona Shelbourne said he's okay with a gap year. I'm not agreeing with it. I'm not arguing it. It is what it is. I mean, I'm actually like in Morey's camp. I'm not a James Harden guy. Like I look at Morey, and I look at Sixers fans, and I think they just all need to take a breath. Like for me, like Morey's a guy who
That's never going to happen, my man. You know that.
I agree, but like he inherited a dumpster fire from Elton Brand and Colangelo. He got us out of the Al Horford contract. He, shipped out the crybaby Ben Simmons out for Harden, which at the time people were really happy about. That was probably the best deal they could have gotten outside of your boy.
There were some that felt like there was a better deal in Sacramento.
Yeah, but let's be real. Like it is what it is. But we're almost free of the Tobias deal, which was horrible. So Maxey taking that next step, Maxey becoming a superstar is probably their best path to winning a championship. That's my thoughts.
I wrote this column on Friday. From what I can gather, I don't think this is heading towards any kind of damage path or poisonous path. But the Sixers have said, we're all high on Maxey. Like, you can't find anyone in the organization who will say, yes, we want to, like, he's available. Like, the message has been, he's part of our core. We envision building around him and Joel, and he's going to get his money. We're deferring that to next offseason. Meanwhile, Rich Paul is watching this from afar. He's saying, okay, well, James Harden's upset about something that this GM just did. And my other client, who is now my former client, Ben Simmons, left Philly. I already have issues. I already don't have an amazing relationship with Daryl Morey. I think there's a chance that this contract with Tyrese Maxey, while it's not going to devolve into awful, I think it's going to. I don't think it's going to necessarily be easy unless they're upfront with like, okay, you waited it out, you were patient.
Are you hinting Damian Lillard? Are you hinting Damian Lillard?
I'm not hinting anything. I'm not hinting that at all.
Do you think that Damian Lillard to Philly is dead? Do you think that's secretly Morey's plan?
I think that's always somewhere in the binder of ideas. But
and it's always good that
I would say
he would do that.
I would say this. I would say we will see when the ink is dry on the Tyrese Maxey contract extension.
It's a great point that you just brought up because Maxey has been a good soldier. He deserves a big contract, and they told him to wait, and he said, sure, no problem, like the good soldier that he is. You don't hear a single complaint. It's a great point that's something
and by the way, as soon as you sign him to that max rookie deal, he now becomes a less valuable player, even if he's under contract longer term, because let's say he doesn't develop into that point guard that they would like to have now that James is doing what James is doing. You now have an undersized tweener, more so two guard, who with defensive limitations, who is now on a Tyler Hero or more type of deal. That's not going to be great on a trade market. I think there's a lot of, so I do think that part of it is like, if we're being totally honest, maybe you do want to wait out and see how his development goes as a point guard before you put him on that next deal where the expectations are higher. And then suddenly he's a less valuable player if he cannot be a point guard.
Before we wrap this up, because I know we got to cut it off here in about 3 minutes. If Damian Lillard to Miami somehow goes astray, would you do Harden for Hero?
Ooh.
Maybe a pick?
I don't think Miami does that. Here's the thing about James Harden.
I think they do. I think they want a star. I think, although I'd love to see Harden's fat butt and heat culture, but I think they do it.
I think James is an all-world player, great player. He also has some of the most losing tendencies in sports that you just can't have. He refuses to play off the ball. He is not a crunch time player in the big moments, and he refuses to put legitimate effort on defense on a consistent basis. Those are all
in Miami, though.
Those are all like telltale signs of a guy who just is not about the right things, and he's going to age like milk, essentially, as he gets older and slows down. What happens if that shooting regresses? Last year he had an anomaly of a year shooting the ball, as both the catch and shoot guy and otherwise. What happens if those legs get older and he takes a step back? I think there's a legitimate reason to say that we don't like. I think there are a select few teams who should and would have interest in James Harden.
I think there are very few. I don't even know.
I think he's having trouble. I think he's having trouble grappling and accepting that reality that he is not the guy that he used to be, and teams have caught on to that and value him as such. And
it's the Russell Westbrook effect. Yeah. Well, guys, I could do this for another hour because I love getting into this. And Austin, thank you for your perspective. Chris, thank you for everything you bring to the show. Thank you, guys. Austin, tell everybody where they can follow you.
You can follow me on Twitter on X now, of course, at NBA Krell. I cover the Sixers for 97.3 ESPN. All my content is there.
Mr. Crockpot, how do we follow you?
Right there, but follow my man Austin over there. He is the best writer, Sixers writer, and best movie taste, period, because Jaws is one of the best movies of all time. I missed that poster, by the way, Austin. You never have it's always an Austin, it's always a podcast with Austin with Jaws in the background. Always.
That's
right. Yeah, no, well, that's great, but you got to get by Godfather 1 and 2 before we can get
Godfather 1 and 2 are phenomenal movies. There's no question about it.
Guys, my name is Mike Small. Follow me on the X. It's at Real Mike Small. The Killin Me Smallz podcast will be coming out weekly with my special producer, Chris Deibler, Mr. Crockpot. Austin Krell will be a frequent guest. I haven't told him that yet, but I appreciate it in advance.
I'll have my agent.
And we're going to dig into Sixers stuff. We're going to get into some NFL. We've got a lot of college football, college basketball. It's going to be a fun ride. I'm glad to be back. Thanks, everybody, for joining, and we'll see you next time on the Killin Me Smallz podcast.
This is Ian Rappaport from NFL Network. You're killing me, Smalls.
This is Bucky Brooks of the NFL Network. You're killing me, Smalls.
Hey, this is Chris Heck, president of the 76ers. I just want to say, you're killing me, Smalls.
Hey, this is former Sixer and Tar Heel George Lynch. Smalls, you're killing me.
Hi, this is Kenny Albert. You're killing me, Smalls.
You're killing me, Smalls.